and welcome to Tuesday Newsday, your #1 resource for the entire week's worth of VR news. It's finally happened. After years of speculation and leaks, I almost can't believe I'm saying this, but Valve has officially announced the successor to the Valve Index. This is the Steam Frame, a completely wireless PC VR headset built from the ground up to play your entire Steam library, while also essentially being a Steam Deck for your face, while also being a full-on actual computer running as a straight-up Linux desktop environment in VR. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about, as this is probably the most exciting piece of VR hardware that has been announced in a very long time. But there are, of course, some caveats, as while the frame looks very impressive, there are a few legitimately disappointing things about the device that we gotta talk about. So I'm dedicating this to be the Steam Frame News Day, and we got a lot to cover. But first, you probably didn't notice, but as VR's been a little slow for most of this year, I haven't really been making very many videos. Instead, I've been coding a lot. Can't talk about for what yet, but I had to learn how to code. And to do that, I had to learn how to code. And I found out the hard way that just about the only way to actually learn to code is by just writing a shit ton of code. No copy pasting, no shortcuts, just you and a text editor, which can be pain sometimes, which is why I legitimately love this video sponsor, Boot.dev. It's a software development learning platform that makes the painful part of learning to code a bit less painful. The actual course structure is kind of like an RPG, so you've got experience and levels, but most importantly, Boot.dev teaches you to code the only way that you're actually going to learn, and that's by just writing a ton of code. You write some, you get some guidance and direction, but you're allowed to fail safely in these environments. And by failing, you're able to deduce solutions rather than just being handed them. So if you've ever wanted to learn to code and you've been stuck in tutorial hell, or you've got a bunch of half-finished copy-pasted projects, just check out Boot.dev. All of the courses are free to read and watch. It's the interactive stuff that requires a membership. So use my link down below and use code ThrillSeeker to get 25% off of your first year or month. They also have free demos for every single course and a 30-day no questions asked refund. But anyways, before I get carried away for another 3 months writing something in C, let's just get right into the news. So to start this one off, I think we should just go over what the Steam Frame is and what it isn't, as this is something that I've seen a lot of people just kind of get wrong, and I don't really blame anyone for it. On the surface, the frame just looks like every other standalone headset we've seen for years at this point, a Snapdragon processor with inside-out tracking, but there's an important distinction that needs to be made, as Valve made it abundantly clear that the Steam Frame's primary purpose, the thing it was built for, is to be a wireless PC VR headset first, built for wireless streaming from a local desktop for not just VR games, but for your entire library. And this is reiterated multiple times throughout the Steam store page and announcement. It's only when you scroll down that they mention that it, oh yeah, supports standalone play too, turning the frame into a sort of VR Steam Deck. And I think the best way to visualize the difference in design philosophy between the frame and something like a Quest 3 is that the Quest 3 is fundamentally a standalone headset that can do wireless PC VR, while the Steam Frame is fundamentally a wireless PC VR headset that can do standalone. It sounds subtle, but it's a big difference in the priority from the manufacturer, especially when you're a user that prioritizes one over the other, which is, I think, the perfect time to go over the specs. And well, to be honest, it's kind of a mixed bag. Like, the frame is as conservative, run-of-the-mill, good enough for as many people as possible as it gets. We're talking 2160 by 2160 LCD panels at 72 to 144 Hz, running through a set of custom pancake lenses with manual IPD adjustment, which, to be real, isn't all that different from a 5-year-old HP Reverb G2, and it's about on par with a Quest 3 or Pico 4. While on the standalone side of things, the frame is running a 4nm Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, which is an interesting choice, by the way, we'll get to that, with 16GB of RAM, dual antennas for that Wi-Fi streaming that connects directly to an included Wi-Fi 6 USB dongle, and a battery in the back of the head strap. The frame also completely ditches base stations and laser tracking and adopts a camera-based SLAM tracking solution similar to just about every other headset on the market, using 4 cameras placed around the headset that also provide pass-through. However, that pass-through is monochromatic, not stereo, and there is no hand tracking support at this time. There are, however, 2 IR illuminators, allowing you to use VR in low or even no light conditions, and of course this will all come along with new controllers with the full D-pad and ABXY buttons, and finger tracking similar to to the Valve Index. Last but not least, the two things I am most excited about are a PCIe expansion port on the bottom of the headset and built-in eye tracking. And so now that we know what the frame is and what's inside of it, let's just talk about how I feel about all of this after all this time. And I'll start with the disappointing things before I gush about what I'm excited about. Given the headsets that have released over the past few years that have really pushed high-end specs through the roof, I can definitely see how a decent amount of people are somewhat disappointed with the frame's announcement. I know a lot of people were expecting, or at least hoping, that the frame would use micro OLEDs like the Vision Pro or beyond, and there's a part of me that was hoping Valve would pull out some crazy magic and still have micro OLED panels for a good price, which would have been amazing. Micro OLED just looks fantastic, but I don't think people realize just how expensive micro OLED panels still are. Like, this is entirely anecdotal, and obviously these manufacturers get displays for way cheaper than I'd ever be able to get one. But last year I was kicking around the idea of building a little DIY micro OLED headset along with a friend, and even just to buy a few 3K micro OLED displays, it would cost thousands of dollars. And yeah, these were cutting edge panels, but still, my point is that micro OLED and affordable just don't go together in the same sentence right now. And then of course there's the option for standard OLED, but that has its own issues too. It's not terrible, but if you've ever put on a PSVR 2 for like 5 seconds, I think you'll see right away why Valve didn't go that route. Again, it's not terrible, but I'm just being honest. And so I can't help but at least understand why Valve chose these panels. They're bright, fast, high enough resolution, and probably cheap, which is something I hope they pass on to the consumer. We'll talk about price towards the end. The next big thing is tracking. And look, this isn't a base station tracked headset, and honestly, I'm kind of glad it isn't. I know if you've watched my videos for a while, that probably sounds like a crazy thing for me to say. After years of laser tracking, I'm kind of ready to move on. Like, I'll still have base station set up for the foreseeable future, like probably for years, but especially as alternative full body tracking solutions get better, like HTC's camera-based Vive trackers and FluxPose's upcoming tracking solution that I've been testing out, the occasional annoyances of base stations have become more and more apparent. And on top of that, if you do really want to use Vive trackers and base stations, you totally can. People have been combining their camera and laser play spaces for a long time now. So yeah, I mean, I can live with LCD panels, the resolution, and camera tracking, but there is one thing that I'm legitimately disappointed in, and that's Valve choosing monochromatic, non-stereo pass-through and shipping with no hand tracking. It's just kind of a bit of a shame in 2026, especially for things that I've gotten used to. And it's not just for VR gaming. Like, I understand for PC VR, you're not going to be using a lot of pass-through, but for everything else this headset will be used for, like playing flat screen games in pass-through on a couch, yeah, it does kind of suck. And I sort of understand the reason for this. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 they chose isn't one of Qualcomm's VR-specific chips, and the camera streams and sensor data and streaming decode all chew through bandwidth. Going monochrome saves a lot of that, but still, it's been described as Quest 2 level pass-through. And as someone who really likes pass-through and prefers hand tracking whenever I can, yeah, this just kind of sucks. I think Valve just saw pass-through and hand tracking as non-essential to their main goal, which is being the best wireless PC VR headset out there, but in my opinion, it's a big miss. Now, all that being said, there are a few things that I am extremely excited about. First up, wireless VR streaming has always been a pain in the butt, and even to this day with Quest, for example, most people just can't use their standard Wi-Fi setups. Like, my ISP gave me this really nice Wi-Fi 7 mesh setup, but it's borderline unusable with PC VR streaming, even though it's a really good network for almost everything else. Just mesh setups and PC VR streaming are notoriously non-compatible. So in order to do that, I have a dedicated router just for PC VR streaming, which is something that a lot of people do, but it's also hard to ask just an average person to get a whole nother router just for their PC to headset connection. And so to hear that a Wi-Fi 6 dongle is included in the box and that the stream is indistinguishable from a display port, that's just a wild thought to me. Apparently this is made possible through that eye tracking via this thing called foveated streaming, offering a claimed 10 times improvement in image quality and effective bandwidth. And this is actually something that's been made available on the Steam Link app for Quest Pro for a while now. I just got a chance to go try it out on my Quest Pro, and yeah, it makes streaming quite a bit more efficient. But I think the single thing that I'm most excited about is the ridiculous hacking potential for the frame. And I don't mean like cybersecurity hacking, I mean the original Heroes of the Computer Revolution kind of hacking. As much as the pass-through situation kind of sucks, if you do want hand tracking or color pass-through or face tracking or maybe all of them, Valve did leave a full Gen 4 PCIe slot on the bottom of the headset open, and I'm guessing with plenty of bandwidth, so you can just add things to it, and I think people will. Plus, by owning a Steam frame, you can technically say that you use Arch, by the way, which is something that I don't think enough people have really hit home and talked about. Like, this is an actual computer. It's a full desktop environment that you can do anything you would use a full computer for. That's insane. And while PC VR streaming is the main goal for the headset, and I think that's what most people that buy this would use it for, what that capability is built upon opens up an entirely new side of VR, a side that we haven't really seen before. I mean, you could just straight up RMRF your headset while in VR and just nuke it, and I freaking love that. Now, there's a whole nother side of the frame as well. It doesn't run everything at the end of the day. It's a mobile chipset that's ARM-based, but for the vast majority of software you'd want to run on it, whether that's games or anything else, you can either build the software straight to ARM or take advantage of the compatibility layers that allow you to run most x86 games, and you can even run just about any Android application. And on the VR side, assuming a game or app that is built for OpenXR doesn't have any meta or Pico dependencies, those VR APKs should just work, which is also a kind of ridiculous thing to think about. And so when you put it this way, the frame kind of sounds a little cracked. It's a wireless PC VR headset running an ARM-based Arch Linux desktop that can run almost anything between native ARM builds, the x86 compatibility layers, and Android apps. It's really weird, it's kind of experimental, and it's like so Valve, which brings me to my final thoughts, or at least where my head's at right now, because it's kind of spinning like, I don't know, I've been thinking about this video for a very long time. And like, just a total disclaimer, I haven't put on this headset yet, and I won't really know what the Steam Frame experience is like until I do, as everything I've said so far is just based on the announcements, the specs, and the direction that Valve seems to be taking. While I'm obviously very personally excited for this, I don't think this is a headset for everyone, and that's okay. Like, it's not going to beat the Quest 3 or 3S in raw value, and if you're already on the bleeding edge with something like a Beyond 2E or Galaxy XR or Vision Pro, this will not be replacing your daily driver either. It's just not that high end of a headset. But it is interesting, and it is certainly different. And out of all of the companies that have said they're open, this is by far the most open headset we've seen yet. And to be real, I think you already know if something like this sounds interesting to you. It's very much so for a type of person. Still, it kind of depends on how much this thing ends up costing. If I were to place a best guess, I could totally be wrong, I don't know. I'd assume it's somewhere between $599 on the low end and $899 on the high end. I hope it's in that range and it's not more expensive, particularly on the lower end of that range, but we won't know until the headset launches early next year. Either way, I will be getting one as soon as I possibly can, and I can't wait to start messing with it. But anyways, what do you guys think? My question of the week is for you guys. Like, what are your impressions? Was it worth all the wait, or do you hate it? I do want to give a shout out to everybody that was data mining and really pulling up information for this headset over the past few years, like especially Brad. They've really made this whole experience really fun, and there's a comment that really stuck out to me. Deckard was the friends that you made along the way, and that is so very true. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and I can't wait to see you guys again next time. We are so back, and it feels good to be excited. Much love, everybody. Thrill out.